Well, we're going to begin right now because we've got a great agenda coming up in the next several hours. We just want to kick it off, Dave and I. As you can see from the agenda, we'll be talking about junior youth issues. We're going to be talking about the ADM implementation for the 2011-12 season, the coaching education program changes, rule proposal discussions on body checking, and if we have some time, some governance, which is very minor governance issues. Our goal here is to inform everyone on some of the major topics that we have at this meeting. This is going to be a very exciting meeting. It could be a cultural changing meeting from some people's perspective, so these discussions are going to be very important for everyone to hear. But I know that everyone has been working hard in getting up to date with some of the points of interest that will be discussed at this meeting, and I know you will have those discussions again in the various committees. We wanted to have a general session for two reasons. One of them is to provide the same information to everyone. Also, this is being taped, so our membership will be able to refer to this and have this on the internet site once this meeting is completed. We know if certain things happen at this meeting, if certain changes are made, our membership will want to know why. Now, we've had a lot of material on the internet. We have a lot of material indicating why certain recommendations are being made. But I think it's important for our membership to hear firsthand why some of us feel that certain changes need to be made in the culture of hockey, both in the body checking area and also in the ADM implementation. And we do know people disagree. Fortunately, we have been able to meet with most of our leaders across the United States, most of our affiliate leaders, many of our program leaders, and the encouraging thing we're having is that after they understand the science behind it, the rationale behind these rule changes, as well as the positioning we are bringing USA Hockey to, there's more agreement than disagreement. And so we're hoping our membership, after hearing the information and actually after seeing it implemented, will also agree. So this is an exciting time, and it's going to be a time of probably more change than we're used to. But with change comes some challenges, and those challenges also end up with opportunities, I think. And we've had changes over the last many years, and USA Hockey has been successful because of how you've absorbed those changes and how we've operated with them. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave. He's got some comments as well. Dave?
Digger, thanks. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see everybody awake. We had a nice positive kickoff to the proceedings last evening. I hope everyone enjoyed it. The format was a little different with the dinner and the round, and we're interested in your feedback to that. And we're going to be interested in your feedback to this. One of the things that we heard a year ago was, especially as we were going through and giving updates on the ADM, and there were some other topics, I forget exactly which, but we would have a delegation that would go to every council meeting and say the same thing. And therefore, each council had the first part of its meetings monopolized with a presentation before it could get to its other business. And as Digger said, not only to make sure everybody's hearing the same thing at the same time, but also to make your subsequent meetings, which will start at noon today, more efficient, because you already will have had delivered to you the information that we want to get out there, and participated in what should be a very interactive session this morning, so you'll hear some other opinions as well. You can then get about the business of discussing that feedback within your body and get on to the other things in your agenda. So we think this is going to be a good idea going forward. We may not always have as many important issues to get out on the floor as we do right now. A couple of big ones, particularly with, I think, some of the dynamic tension between junior midget programs and the entrepreneurs and the affiliates, and we need to find a way to come up with solutions to that. I described it in our executive committee yesterday and in some private conversations, Digger, that I have had, is that the ultimate solution may be a little bit like our transfer agreement with Hockey Canada. Neither of us like it that much, but the absence of having some kind of an agreement is chaos, and that isn't good, because then there is no structure and there's no control. So I hope when people are dealing with some of these kinds of topics, they're not looking to necessarily get 100% of what they'd like to have, but to find a compromise that's going to be good for the sport. We do have a series of presentations. I'm going to ask all of the people involved in those presentations, bring your watch up. This is going to be like a train station. We do not have time to have those sessions extend. We've got to stay to the schedule. We are not going to take breaks, by the way. And so, you know, we're not an overly formal group. If you want to go out to use the restroom, get a cup of coffee, anything of that kind, if you have to make a business call, just get up and go and come back in. Hopefully you don't leave and take a whole delegation with you. And when you do come in, we'd really prefer not to have the walls stacked. We've got a third of the seats empty up here, folks, and at the far end of the room. And I hope you're going to be coming in and spending a few hours. So, you know, come on in and sit down and get comfortable. I hope you'll be engaged in this. There will be some Q&A time at the conclusion of each piece. And it's good to have other people hear what you are thinking and what you have to say. And hopefully we'll have a lot of good positive and informative discussion here today, and then we can get on to our individual meetings this afternoon and come out of the weekend having had some success in making the game better. We move into our 75th anniversary season. It's the volunteers in this organization, it's the boards, councils, and committees that have made all of the changes that have gotten us to the place we are today with record membership, record medals, and we're pretty sound overall, and quite frankly, one of the most respected organizations in the Olympic movement. My daughter, who's about 4 years into a career in sports marketing, was at a big conference in New York the other day, and the chief marketing officer of the United States Olympic Committee was the keynote speaker, and my daughter reported USA Hockey got a particular shout out as the model NGB. You always like to hear that, and the reason that some people feel that way is because of you. So I think with that, we're going to kick it off with our very first session, which I think, Jimmy, is the youth junior discussion, right? So come on up with your troops, and let's make it a good morning. Thank you.
Is Joe Botto out here? By chance? Or is he hiding already on me here? So, huh? There he is. Come on up, buddy. You had to shrink as much as Gavin to get away with this, but you didn't, so sorry about that. Welcome, everybody. I know that this topic's been on the docket for a little while, and I know it. We met last year at the meeting here, which really kicked this off. And one of the things that stated at that was that wanted to make sure that we found forums to get enough feedback for all the parties involved in the youth junior crossovers, really, that we have in a certain age category of options that kids have, of differences across the country on what's available in their areas, as well as the difference there in the country of a lot of kids traveling to play, or a lot of kids that's just their home program, and that's what the options are close to home for them. So it is a complicated issue, but it's also an issue that obviously a lot of people are passionate about, and a lot of people have put a lot of time and energy into this past year to get us to the point today where we're going to have the discussion about, or the special session, on Saturday morning to hopefully adopt some legislation that can work for everybody. I think, as Dave pointed out, it is similar to the Hockey Canada transfer agreement in that there's a lot of parties involved in it, and there's really, in all honesty, there is not a one right answer, because there's unique differences across our country in what works and what doesn't work. I think one of the things that I initially laid out was to try to define the problem and where are the issues and where are the places that it's working, and is there parts of where it's working very well that can be brought into areas where we've had some conflict and challenges, and there's just unique differences. So the same hat does not fit everywhere, so it's impossible to say what's working in this area, let's just bring that over here and that should work for you guys, because it just doesn't work that way within all the framework and the different organizations and ranks that we have, and how they're affiliated with either youth programs or junior programs and tied into a private ranks or tied into community ranks and all those things. So there's just a wide myriad of things that are out there. I think one of the other key components, and this kind of evolved as it went over time, was the bottom line, I think, in all of our meetings with, and especially with Dave and Danny and Joe right here, was the bottom line is we said that our USA Hockey, our groups, if you will, we have to communicate better. We have to get the affiliates talking more to the junior operators. We have to get the junior operators talking more to the affiliates. And we got to make sure we all understand within the youth structure of where this all fits. And there are going to be differences of opinion, which is okay. But we also have to make sure that we're good partners in this as a whole, meaning that we're not people aren't finding out things that they should have found out as being members of the same organization. So I think the part I'm most proud of to date is we needed more communication. We have had communication, and it's continuing to grow. And I think if as we delve into this, I know I'm going to let a couple comments come from the other gentleman here, but we have been operating under the moratorium that was in place from Ron, and we've had an expansion review group that has put in a lot of work and a lot of time, and I think the formation of that has led to us getting to the point where we're at today, saying, okay, we've made one step in this, but we don't want to operate under a quote-unquote moratorium. We want to operate under a system that works for all the parties involved in it, and have the people in place that will be very knowledgeable, that are making the decisions in a knowledgeable manner, that is not, directly connected one way or another to one program or another program, but looking at the big picture. And not to go into great detail, but there's already been 15 cases, if you will, heard on relocations of teams, a few expansions of teams and things like that. And in 14 of the cases, the affiliates have been in total agreement with the movement or the relocation or a new team coming into place. The one where there was a little bit of difference of opinion, in all honesty, there was a difference of opinion within that affiliate as well, meaning several districts in the area of where the team are totally fine. Some parts of the affiliate were not quite in favor. Again, that's one of those situations that, in fairness, I think this group did a great job in reviewing all the facts and coming up with the decision they did. And the bottom line is everybody had an opportunity for feedback and to give their points of view on that matter. I think what we're proposing here is a structure that will, I'm going to say to a degree mandate, but it will allow for that to happen. And I think that's the most important thing. I think when we first had our meeting, in a lot of cases, either the affiliates or youth organizations, their bottom line was, we didn't even know about this team coming here. We had no idea it was coming. What is going to be proposed in the language here, you'll see everyone will have plenty of time communication-wise to know when teams are coming in or looking at coming in, to give their feedback on it, whether it's a viable operation or not a viable operation, and whether it's going to have any adverse effect within a youth structure in their area. But it's also going to allow the junior operators to state their case on why they feel that this program is going to work in their area, and for them to have to show clearly how it would work and how where their player pool would come from and all those things. So with that, I'm going to turn it over briefly for, I guess, an opening comment from my colleagues up here. And then as Casey is up here, in the end, I said to everybody that in the end, this has to get written into a book. So for people who want to follow us here, if you go into the Board of Directors agenda book, this is the current language that you will be deciding upon on Saturday, excuse me. I know there's been maybe a word or two changes to date, and I know it's still being talked about a little bit in committees here, but in general, that has the language. So in all references, I guess, if people are going to refer something, I would ask that you refer to what's in the yellow book right now, because that is really what the board is going to be looking at come Saturday morning. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Just a quick background in terms of process. Some years ago, we had, as Jim mentioned, the conversations of teams coming out of dormancy, teams relocating, brand new teams happening, principally in the pay-for-play area of juniors. Then our president put together a moratorium, established a review committee that was chaired by Casey. Dan and I and Joe were a part of that. We had 20 opportunities for people to discuss issues of dormancy, movement, and so forth. We decided on 16 of them. 4 we're going to do this weekend. While this process was happening, the executive board and others came together and said it's important maybe that we formulate a legislation, which is in our yellow book, and we take it from a moratorium stage to something that's in the guidebook, and there's now a process and a procedure for teams in the pay-for-play area and others that want to process a new team, whether it's dormancy, a new location, relocation, or a de novo team. That's the legislation that's in front of us that we want to discuss and vote on this weekend. That puts us in a process where we have even more formal structure in terms of our membership. There has also been some additional thought that I'd share with the group that, okay, let's assume the legislation passes, and we hope that it does. There's probably some additional thinking that has to come around this. Digger made a comment, and Dave Ogren at the opening of this session, which was the Hockey Canada agreement of movement of players. And maybe there's some additional thought that has to be brought together with all of our membership's ideas to formulate even something a little down the road. Not to clod the legislation for this weekend, which is primary, but to let you know that this is a continuing work in progress, so we get some validation and some signposts around this kind of a thing. So kind of moving forward directionally as a process, that's what the company is thinking. A lot of discussion. It's interesting, one little tidbit I'll share with you, and we all had a good smile as a committee. One of the affiliate presidents said to us, you know, guys, thanks for the information, thanks for the conversation. I'm not so sure I'm 100% in where you're directionally headed with this decision on this particular junior team relocation, but I'll say this to you. No one ever called us before. We never knew about it, and wasn't it just a breath of fresh air to get that kind of information. So there's a group that made us feel good, and directionally I think we're heading in the right direction. So just as kind of some opening comments before we get some specific questions, kind of wanted to share with everybody directionally what's the company thinking, what's the why behind it, and where are we headed.
I wasn't planning on being up here this morning, so everybody knows about that. My portion of the committee was to try to bring something back to the affiliates, to give them some input and get them the information they need when a new program is brought into their area, whether it's brand new or transferred or relocated. I believe in what we've put together for the legislation does that. It does give information back to the affiliates. Whether or not the committee will agree with the affiliate's recommendation or not, that's another point, but the affiliate will have some say and some input into it based on the legislation that's out there, and I think that was my major goal as part of the committee, to try to get the affiliates more involved.
Thank you, Joe. Juniors are back again. I just, no sense me saying, repeating what JJ and Dave and Joe, they covered pretty much the same discussions I thought this audience should be aware of. The only thing I just want to share from the junior perspective is that, you know, one of the things I discovered as we got into this, because junior hockey has evolved dramatically in this country, the interest for it, its activity, and in addition to finding rules and regulations and policies, I find the other thing that made this thing so difficult for us is I realize we're getting involved in different cultures. And that's a whole nother world. Culture changes is not something just gets legislated overnight. It's a work in progress. So I want to commend everybody from Ron and Dave, the leadership, when all these problems developed. Sometimes I could see a situation where someone just throw their hands up and walk away and say, it's yours, you take care of it. But rather than that, the only hand movement was a finger pointed, and you guys take care of this. And here we are. So I really applaud the leadership. The other thing is when I got into this thing and we had this committee here, and from the junior side, I'm saying to myself, I don't know where this is going to go. You know, seems to be kind of heavy one way, but I got to share this with you that I was really impressed at the open-mindedness from everybody, from staff to youth to the affiliates, and even our legal side of it was so open-minded. No one came in this thing with a parochial interest at all. Everybody just look at if we had to take this thing and this was the thing and how would we build it, we just took all the entities out of it. Nothing was parochial, which I thought was very, very healthy and led to some very good dialogue. And probably something from that dialogue and that position, I think as an organization, we'll succeed. We'll have success here. The only thing I ask is that, we all work together, and as was stated earlier, when I look at that document, if I'm a youth guy, I can see some things I might not like, but if I'm a junior guy, there's some things I do like. But I think it's a middle road for now for us to start on, and we need a beginning. And if we don't have a beginning, it'll be chaos, because one of the things that's happened with junior hockey, it's evolved into rink ownership, rink management, rink controlled, and that's a whole nother area we've never been in before. So we gotta be careful how we deal with those and those business interests. So we're really embarking in new territory in more than one area, and I think we're capable of looking for results, successful results. I think we can do it. So I just ask that you bear with us. Don't look at the junior as the bad guy. And just kind of work with us and understand that we understand the issues, because my background is from the youth ranks. That's where I cut my teeth in USA hockey, and I believe in it, and I don't want to see it come apart. And I think that each and every one of us in the room play a major role in that. So I just ask everyone to really be patient with us, with the committee, with the joint councils, and allow us the opportunity to just work our way through this for the betterment of USA hockey and all those that we serve.
Thanks. I think I'm going to open up for questions in a second here, but before I do, I want to explain a couple other things from a procedural standpoint from a staff. I know we paid wonderful tribute to John Cowley last night, and as technology's evolved with our online membership and all those things, the roster management of junior hockey is going to be taken in-house at USA Hockey. It's going to be handled in combined efforts really with our membership department and Susan Hunt being the point person there, with Kim Folsom and Mark Boxer being the key components of the roster management. And we're going to explain that to junior council here today at noon and how that's operated. But I think the bottom line, what I'm telling everybody here, is there's going to be much more staff involvement in the operation and the oversight, if you will, of junior hockey as it relates to getting communication out to the affiliates, to the various youth associations and all those things. So all of that is coming in-house because of the efficiencies that we have and the capabilities we have, and professional people, not 24/7, by the way, junior guys. You're going to get some hours from us as well. It won't be 24/7, but professional staff dedicated to making sure that communication goes out, and also handling the things like roster management. And I think I'd be remiss without commenting on the great job Mark Boxer has done to date in assisting me with this, because all of the work that the expansion review group has done right now, a lot of it, Mark was the guy behind the phone line, tracking down the people and getting the information out to them, and he's certainly going to be the key person going forward from a staff perspective as we move into the new millennium, I guess, of technology and everything that we're capable of doing and servicing our membership from head to toe. So with that, I will open it up to questions. I would ask that you identify yourself and any affiliate that you have or skin in the game, so to speak, in this, and so we can best answer any questions that people have. Casey and Peter Lindbergh did a lot of the writing of the language that's in there. We basically gave them conceptually what we needed to do, and then handed it over to them to put it in the language that has to be written into to the annual guide. So I know Casey will be open to anything on language issues that might be a word or something like that, but we can talk conceptually about the structure of this and the proposal moving forward. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions from the floor. There must be a question. Do we do this good a job? All right, here we go.
Hi, Bob Manson. I'm with the high school section. I think we've come a long ways since the problem was initially identified. I've read both I have not read the new version of this yet. All my notes are on the previous one. But I had a couple questions, especially regarding I think the databases. Is there a different database that's going to be used for juniors as opposed to youth? And if so, are you able to draw information from both of those databases to watch or to look for kids that are playing juniors and youth? I understand that, we use the cyber sport, but you're using something else. Is that correct?
I'm deferring to Ray Briggle on this one here, so.
Yeah, Bob, while the junior program uses a different registration software at their desk, it's a web-based application, the data all goes to the same database. So we track all junior players in the national database and track their youth participation too. So yeah, we have ways to, and we always have. They've always been in the same database. Exactly. We call the junior application, since it's web-based, its title is the Junior Registry. But the junior teams process their confirmation numbers. Everybody registers online, and they come into USA Hockey with an association code attached to the junior program and a team code attached to the team that processed that registration.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And then the second issue is we have a number of days to respond. The affiliate has a number of days to respond to a new team application. The response time is 10 days for the affiliate. Everything else is 15 days. Could we get some consistency in there? Could we change the affiliate's response time to 15 days rather than 10? I think it's on page, no, this thing isn't numbered. Was it 19?
I think in the yellow book, I believe everything is 15 days. Casey's going to check this for us here, but.
I'm looking at, my page numbers are page 9. I believe it's the same as what you got there, Bob. In paragraph E, the heading is additional procedures for Tier 3 expansion.
No. I'm sorry, I thought I wrote down the page number.
Yep.
Page
Okay.
10.
So, well, then go to, as you go through the expansion section, which is the third proposal here, paragraph E, the heading is additional procedures for Tier 3 expansion. So with respect to expansion of Tier 3 teams, the affiliate is notified on or about December 15th. Their notices have to be in at December 15th, and it should happen that day. It might happen the day after. But the affiliate, it says, has, within 15 days of receiving the materials, provide comment to the junior staff liaison and the chair of the Junior and Youth Council. And then the affiliate also has the opportunity to participate at the Junior Council meeting when they make their determination of whether to approve or not approve the proposed expansion. And then there's also the appeal right, which is, that may be what you're talking about, is in the appeal section.
I'm sorry, yes, F.
Okay. On appeals, the reason that's 10 is because throughout our book on appeals, if you look at bylaw 10, I believe our appeal period for submitting notices is 10 days on all kinds of appeals. And so that's a little different animal than gathering comment and gathering information to provide comment to the junior council. This is really appealing a junior council decision, and theoretically, I think a policy reason would be that by the time you're appealing, everyone already knows the issues because they argued them at the junior council level before. So it's really just the appeal, one thing. A comment did come in yesterday, and I just make that, is that in E, there wasn't a specific provision that said that the decision of the junior council will get communicated to the affiliate, and that's something that I'm going to add in here before Saturday. There would just be a sentence in there to that effect.
Okay. Last question. How many dormant teams are there? Do we know that? Is there a definitive number?
Right now, I think the number is 6.
Throughout the entire country?
Pardon me?
Throughout the entire country, there's
Yes.
only 6 dormant?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
John Hack, Wisconsin Amateur Hockey. Kind of related to Bob's last question. And JJ, I think you used the number 15, and that's how many the expansion review committee has looked at? 15 cases?
Yes.
Is that the total number, or are there still some out there you haven't addressed?
There's a total
There's
of 20. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a total of 20.
We've actually looked at 16. We've decided on 16. There's 4 that we've looked at. We just haven't made a determination yet.
Okay, and I did see an email that had the list of notified teams. I think that's the name of the document. How many have been approved by the committee?
15 have been approved. I'll give you some numbers on that that might help. 15 have been approved. Pardon me. All 16 have been approved. 16 have been approved. As JJ said, in all cases we've had communication with the affiliate in one way or another. In many of these cases, the affiliate came to us before we even had the opportunity to and said, we are endorsing this program. We want it in our area of the country because it helps our hockey, our youth hockey programs. In other cases, we talked about how there's been so much more communication. It was very noticeable in this process. The communication had increased this year as opposed to last year. I noticed it in the first week or two because we were getting information that the junior leagues had gone to the affiliate in advance, told them what they wanted to do, and the affiliate and the junior league had come to an agreement about their player pool. And then the affiliate would endorse the program based upon that agreement that they entered into. And so there were several situations like that where they agreed not to take players under a certain age or players that played in high school. And so there's been almost, well, it's not, 100% support because those were conditioned in some ways upon the agreement, but it was the fact that they got together and made an agreement that was such a positive thing. Then, in the one situation that we had, it was a very gray issue. I can tell you that both the junior commissioner and the affiliate president both felt like it was a slam dunk on their side, and we were sitting there thinking this is a really gray issue, and we came to a resolution that tried to mitigate the impacts that having the junior franchise in that area might have on the youth hockey. So
I think that sounds like a daunting number, I think, to people thinking 16. Only 4 of these are actually new teams. And in the case of 2 of the teams, they're actually 2 new teams to help an existing league that had members change leagues to fill out their league. So when we say there's 16, in reality, there's really only 2 new teams. There's 4 physically, but there's only 2 new teams that have been approved to date. The other 2, quite honestly, were approved so a league could have a league. I mean, they were down to, I believe, 4 members, and this gets them up to 6 members. And it was, again, in every one of those cases, this had full approval from the affiliates in the respective areas. So a lot of this other things was either changing of leagues, relocation, and again, I guess I'm going to compliment our procedure here, because in the past we didn't have this. You wouldn't have known, they wouldn't have come to get that approval and do those things. Now, procedurally, they have to do those things, and then the material gets out to everybody that's affected.
JJ, you're probably anticipating my other question. How many of you turned down? Because, and I'm going to ask the question simply because of the fact, why have the expansion review committee if you're just going to automatically approve them anyway?
Well, there's only been one that's been opposed. So we've not turned down any. There's only been one that's had any opposition.
I think I'm well aware of that.
So I mean, that's my comment, is that we haven't turned any down because they've had unanimous support from their area.
Would you turn any down?
I think
Okay.
in the right circumstances we would.
I just want to get that question out in the open, so.
Yeah, and if I could add to the committee members, and I think maybe this is directionally where you're headed, in some of the approvals, there were stipulations put in by the affiliate that you can't take any high school players without contacting the junior. And another circumstance in the Euclid, Texas area, don't take any midget player. So the answer is we approved 16, but in some of the individual cases inside the 16, there were parameters established between youth and junior that were different than some of the other 16 that were approved. So conceptually for the audience, yes, you've approved 16, but in some of the cases inside that number, there were parameters established by the Review Expansion Committee.
So these parameters have a penalty if they violate that.
Yeah, well, here's what we got. We've got a youth affiliate, and we've got a junior operator that have agreed with our expansion committee that you're not going to take high school players in one case. You're not going to take midget age players in another case. The opportunity would be if we are notified through Ray or others, well, wait a minute, the written agreed upon transaction and the letters that were sent out have been violated, now what? I mean, we're hopeful that we're dealing with all of us here as a family, and that was agreed upon. That's directionally where we're headed. But I think the inference of your question, as I accepted it, was, hey, you're 16 for 16, which is true, but I have to say that inside that body of 16, there were modifications and guideposts on some of those decisions.
Right. Okay. Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
If I can just add to that, and that particular matter came up at one of our affiliates, and the affiliate asked if they make an agreement with a junior team, will the junior council support that all the way? And the answer to that is yes. So whatever arrangements are made, those are the terms that the junior council will ensure that they're fulfilled. If they don't, then we got a problem.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Deb Dougal. I'm from New Hampshire Amateur Hockey. My question kind of follows the gentleman's question as far as criteria for denying teams. In New Hampshire, we have a very, we don't have a high school program, USA Hockey program. We used to have a strong split midget program, which is now in declining numbers, specifically because of some of the junior C teams that have come along that we were unaware of. So how much input do the affiliates have in terms of helping to sway a decision one way or the other? And it hurts not only the hockey programs in New Hampshire, even though they're not USA Hockey, but the split midget, and those kind of go hand in hand in our area of the country. I know in other parts of the country it's vastly different. So, you know, what's the criteria? How much does an affiliate have say in, and how much are their concerns heard, or is it more of a communication?
Well, I think it's a combination of almost everything you're saying, and without having exact specifics, I guess what the process-wise, the affiliate will be heard, and you know what their case is to a degree up to the affiliate, if you will, in explaining their programs. Just like a junior operator will have to explain why he feels a junior program could be in the area. I think not to circle back, but in the burden that we're really going to put more on the junior operators is for the junior operators ahead of all of this to go to the affiliate and to explain to them, hey, this is why we really think a program can work in your area. And as they pointed out in a lot of these cases that we've already heard, this was done well in advance of it really ever coming to us, because they said, oh, we've met 3 times on this. This is great. We think it's going to be wonderful for us. Now the areas that we have dispute, that again, I think the process-wise, we've got a system now that's going to allow all for that to be heard. And if this legislation passes, the opportunity for the affiliates within the framework of approval in the junior council, they're going to have their voice heard. They have membership within the council right now that is representatives there, and to have a voice and an opinion on how that works there. Now, ultimately, if there's an area where we just flat out have dispute, we have a review, an appeal. It's really an appeal review group instead of a group deciding it ahead of time. They're going to decide on it after the decision has been made. And I think what I've said the same thing to junior operators as I said to affiliate and districts and things like that. I think we have to trust the people that we're going to put in these positions that are going to be very dedicated to it, and also very knowledgeable across the board in it to make the right decisions on a consistent basis, not having a direct affiliation with one group or another group. I mean, I think what we're looking to do is have consistency across the board in what those decisions are. I say that knowing that there's huge differences across the country in what the challenges are or what really makes sense in some of those areas. So I think as this evolves here, this is going to be an ongoing process. I think we're going to, hopefully we'll come out of this after year one and we'll find little areas of this that we say, you know what, we didn't quite think of this, or here's another thing. I was in junior hockey long enough that know that we always find loopholes in the player procurement and the rules and stuff like that. But I also do know that I think there's been a lot of time and effort put into this to make sure that that proper feedback is given by all parties in there. And I want to say this in the right way. At some point, we have to trust the people that are going to be involved in the oversight of this, in making consistent decisions across the board that are in the right interests of hockey, and not necessarily in sole interests of this party or that party, but in the right interests of the game across the board, and trying to bring it all under one umbrella.
I guess part of my concern is that we've lost full season midgets. Our numbers are down in a huge way for split season midgets. High school is being affected, but that's outside of this realm. And most of that competition, most of what's drawing that is the junior C teams, not the A and B teams. There are kids that are going to go there that belong there and don't belong in youth hockey. But it's almost like we're partitioning off some kids and just shifting it. And I don't know where the growth is. Is it going to be in youth hockey, or is it going to be in the junior side of things? Yeah. So.
Well, I guess as we've talked about here on the communication between the parties being the key, and not knowing the specific case, my words of advice, if you will, would be that to get those parties together and to say, here's the concerns we have. Yep. Here's some of the positives coming. Here's where we see some of the negatives. How do we make this work better in our area? And I think there's a lot of people that are willing to help if there's not as much, I don't know if expertise is the right word, but if there's outside sourcing that needs help as well, our staff's ready to assist, and people that are very, very actively engaged in this are willing to assist. And I think through all of this, the one great thing in this process is I'm going to somehow tie ADM to this. I don't know how I do this, Digger, but I'm going to get ADM into it. When we first started ADM, we talked about we have to communicate better with our field. And we have to have more paid professionals in the field to help do that and do those things. I think that's one of the great compliments of ADM so far. And I think that wherever people fall on this issue, the heightened part of it is there is a lot more communication. And I think from the junior operator standpoint, I think they are well aware that there has to be communication and there has to be a lot more dialogue with the various affiliates and associations in those affected areas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just before we go on, Jimmy, just ask the audience, get up to the mic closely. We are recording this just so we can hear and get the recording properly. Thanks.
Thank you. Great.
Junior owner. I've been involved with youth hockey also for 25 years, and I'm a rink owner also, and I do sit on junior council, newly appointed to that. I guess I think this communication thing is an obvious need, and I think it's going to be the base from which all this cooperation is eventually going to come from. But I think when we're identifying the problem, I think we have to be honest with each other and say that one of the biggest issue and the responsibility of USA Hockey is to serve this player pool, and this player pool that we're talking about is being served by youth hockey as well as junior hockey. And I think what we need is, and I know it exists, it may be just a question of clarifying it for more of us, is what the definition is or what your goal is as a youth council and what your goal is as junior council as to who you are trying to serve and what's your main purpose. If I can take a little bit of liberty here and say that, juniors is primarily involved with trying to move players onto the NCAA, college hockey at some level. I think that says something about the level of player that we're trying to serve. But if you take the elite midget programs around the country, they too can say the same thing. So I think if by identifying what individual goals are for each section, trying to serve the same player pool, then we can see where they overlap and deal with those issues. And I think we have an ability to move on from there because really our responsibility is to serve this player pool and who serves it best. And the model for youth hockey and the model for junior hockey are two different models. And in different areas, they will apply and serve that customer better, and that's what we have to get to.
And I mean, I'll follow up to that because interesting, this went through several phases and people involved in the discussions and the formation ultimately of what's in the book here. But what's not in the book in this part of it, and there is separation in youth teams and how they operate under the affiliate, and junior teams and how they operate under junior council. A big part of our discussions at the last meeting we had was really about the levels of what's expected at especially the junior level. And that's everything from, billet situations to the operations of the team and the type of staffing that they have and all those things. And that was a real big part of our discussions at our meeting in Chicago. That included youth, that included junior, that included affiliate people about having a standard. And I know some standards are going to come up in junior council here that I think are important for what are people signing up for. And in fairness to everybody involved in the junior, there's a lot of junior operators that want to make sure that's a high level because they want to protect what they're doing and they don't want to have a bad partner doing a bad job and a family or a young player have a bad experience, and so they're going to hold their partners to that. And that was a big part of our discussion in there. So I'll turn part of this to Danny here because he was involved in that as well.
Also, I'd just like to tag on to Ray's comments. Is one thing that's happened in all my years of 18, 19 years now with juniors, it really has evolved. There was a time, and I think the same thought is shared in this room, there was a time that when you thought of junior hockey, you thought of the elite player, and that was juniors, and that was the kid who was going to go on. What's happened over the years, because of the popularity of our sport and the work that everybody is doing, junior hockey now is involved to a different area in that basically it's a 20 and under category of which some participants will go on to NCAA, some will go on a club, and some will just play. And that's the same individual that will go on and play adult hockey and enjoy the hockey the rest of their life. So that's where we're at. So we have multiple levels of junior hockey. Now I say that purposely because some of the conversations I've had, people think unless it's a D1 player, that junior program is a waste. It's just taking a kid's money. In essence, it's not. As Ray points out, it's a different model. The junior programs, what I've learned, compared to some midget programs, has a different offering. It's a different schedule, it's a different organization, different criteria, and people and parents would rather opt for that. And when I weigh this thing out, again, because I'm still concerned about the youth part of this, is, parent has a choice and the kid has an option, and if his parents were always looking for what we think is the best thing for our child. And I think, as USA Hockey, we're fortunate because we have so many opportunities for kids today. And the junior operators, when JJ talks about criteria, we've really taken over the years now and really elevated the criteria. The typical junior program one time, to oversimplify it, was like a mom and pop type operation. That's all been replaced now. So we have professional people involved, we have rinks involved, the rink owned, ring operated. It's a whole different standard. It's a whole different business environment that they operate in today. And they're accountable. So I think when I say the culture, we've clashed because there are those that think we're trespassing because the kid who would play midget hockey now maybe not have that midget program, but he does have a junior program, and that may be a better fit for the kid. And I don't think I'm in position to judge that, which is best for the kid. But I do know the programs are out there, and one of the reasons why junior is becoming so popular by parents is because it just seems to be providing the customer what they want. And our role here is to regulate that.
Hey, Ray, before you follow with the question, I think we're focused as a group of what you're saying. You've come from some area of maybe minimal conversation and discussion to our president's moratorium, to legislation that's happening, and so progressively you're moving directionally in the right way. Your question was, okay, now we're past the legislation perhaps. You have some issues in terms of pay for play, the right ages. Take a look at the Canada model. The Dave Ogren speech at the beginning of today was, hey, there's got to be a next step here to do some clarification, if I may, to our membership. We're serving our youth at the older level, both youth and junior. Do you want to think then generationally, what should happen there? We kind of want to lever on people like yourself for those kinds of ideas Because as a company, you're thinking, okay, what are we going to do yet to be a little bit better to the issue that you raised in your question?
Yeah, and I think my point is that this oversight committee, as it evolves, should be able to have clear criteria so that when you look at a situation, because if we leave it up to just the youth organization in the place or the junior organization in the place, they're all going to try to put their model into that situation. And I think somebody has to be able to step back and say, hey, the youth model makes more sense here. The junior model makes more sense here, or here's where they can coexist. And that's really going to be the issue, because where they come to, if both areas are trying to serve the same customer, somebody's going to get mad at that, and there's going to be an issue. So that's basically my point.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. I think in closing here on this, I do want to thank a lot of people that have been involved in this, and I remember when I don't know if appointed is the right word, when Dave and Digger first came to me, the bottom line, they just said we have to find a solution. And we got to hear our membership. We got to work with people. We got to do some things. We have to find a solution. I guess I have a little bit of experience in this with the Hockey Canada, and I've got great assistance in that and guidance from Art from over the years. But then with myself and really Kim Folsom on the language and working out things, and I don't think I've ever not had a disagreement with Dave Branch or Bob Nicholson in the meeting, but I've always walked out shaking their hand and understanding that we got partners that in the end are trying to protect some parts of it, but also to make sure that we're doing the best for the game. So I think we obviously do want your support of this proposal. We want an opportunity to implement this. We are, as I said, there's going to be much more staff involvement in the communication that goes out. There's going to be much more oversight. I'm saying that in a way that people dedicated to it, because there's been so many wonderful people involved in it, and it's just we think we can do a more efficient, better job, get better communication out to everybody, and in the end, I think we want to be people that provide solutions, and I think with this language here, we're saying give us a chance to make those solutions. So, Judge, I'll give you the closing.
Thank you very much, and I stand back and listen to the discussion, and it's very heartening to listen to your comments, and I urge you to support this legislation. This is a sea change in USA Hockey, as you are aware. I mean, we are now providing what affiliates have been asking for an awful long time, input in the process. And this is going to happen if we pass this legislation, and it is a major step forward in our relationships, not only with our junior franchises, but with our affiliate organizations. And this organization, Ray raises a good question about what our standards are. I think Jim has answered that adequately. But take a look at this. It is a major step forward for this organization, and something we should embrace. Running an organization involving junior franchises under a moratorium is not a good way to do business. We had to do it for various reasons, and that's not a good way to run the business. The legislation takes us in a different path, and in a path that I think is where we need to go. A working relationship between the junior youth programs, and we have some oversight that we put into place which will, I think, have a major impact on it as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. I thank everybody for the time here this morning. I know we're going to move on to the ADM implementation, and if there's offline things to discuss, feel free to track myself down or anybody I can direct.